And now, the Game of the Year award goes to The Last of Us Part 2.
We just don't even try anymore, do we? Between unmerited awards and broken promises, anyone who truly still believes that this industry is in a fucking mess is still living in 2019. These are the same people who still pre-order games and then send death threats to the developers for their own stupid decisions. I felt like some kind of prophet just kicking back and watching the shit show that was Cyberpunk unfold, thinking, did people really not see this coming? To be honest, I don't see these 20 IQ consumers breaking the cycle anytime soon and learning the number one rule when it comes to video games. It's not about your Twitter rants or your keyboard warrior death threats, it's all about your wallet. If the GameStop arc hasn't taught you this already, real change only comes when you mess with the money. Have some fucking control, wait for a game to come out, and get informed before making the purchase. Companies can put out dog shit because regardless what happens after the fact, they make their money before the game even launches, all thanks to the pre-order and day one cucks. Stop relying on companies to not overhype a game. Are you kidding me? If they could, they wouldn't even make a game and simply sell you the experience of the hype, and the homunculi would probably still gobble it all up. Now, what does this have to do with the game I'm reviewing today? Well, despite the crazy hype around it last year, I actually didn't play it until this year. And I'm glad I waited and tested the game's longevity through what people were saying, because now it's my favorite disappointment of all time. I promise that this title isn't clickbait, but to get to the moment of my disappointment, I need to get into spoilers. I'll mention when we get there, but first, I want to give what my first impressions were. I vaguely knew what to expect. Greek mythology, roguelike, isometric view, and the game pretty much delivered on those fronts. As an aside, is anyone else just fucking sick of all the games that use Greek and Norse mythology? I just feel like we're in some kind of rut with these choices, and there is certainly a plethora of other mythologies to base your game around. I know some might be more controversial to use, like palling around with Jesus or Vishnu, but I mean, decapitating Ra wouldn't stir up the pot too much, right? At least with Hades, the use of the Greek mythology setting is beautifully woven into the game itself and mechanics. In a roguelike, you're bound to die over and over again, and while having an in-game explanation as to why you're able to come back has been done before, the mythology works nicely to explain all this. This commitment to make the game world feel very deliberate went a long way to enhance my enjoyment of it. Within the first few pieces of dialogue, I immediately got the sense of who everyone was and what their personalities were like. The voice work is just so good and conveys each character's personality so well, whether it's Hades' no-nonsense exterior, to the protagonist's sarcastic and aloof demeanor, the god and goddesses of Olympus conveying what thematic attributes they are known for. It is just a joy to hear, and I really looked forward to any interaction I could have. Whoever's decision to give Zagreus modern slang such as lads and mate deserves a huge raise. It's the little details that make something feel unique, and I appreciate having nuance to not go full "how do you do, fellow kids." The art is phenomenal, and each area has a distinct feeling. I really enjoy these little moments where you get to look out and see the area you will be fighting through. It allows you to feel the scale of what you're trying to overcome, which can get lost as you walk through room after room. Again, this team just makes perfect, deliberate decisions to make their game world feel truly alive while using everything at their disposal. Just a little bit of framing and some art went a long-ass way to create this big world that feels open, instead of some of these open world games that can't do it with all their actual in-game space. The models look all very distinct, and attacks are not hard to tell apart. Every now and then things can get a bit clusterfucky, but compared to some other roguelikes, I think everything is pretty easy to tell. Now, combat is fun and fast, like a roguelike should be. You have your main moveset from the beginning and find tons of upgrades along the way. I like that the game has temporary upgrades in your run to make every attempt feel different, but also has permanent upgrades that will greatly improve your odds as you fight through it. It all feels very streamlined and it never feels overwhelming, like it usually does when you start to introduce RPG elements. For the most part, there are visual ways of telling how your upgrades are panning out, so it is not just these numbers in the background you have to calculate to know if something is good or not. You will figure out what complements your style of play, and even have room to test other things and learn new ways of playing. The combat has no complaints from me. So why was this my favorite disappointment? Well, this is where we have to get into spoilers, so if you haven't played this game, just turn off the video and go get it. Despite what I'm about to get into, I think the game is still worth recommending, and I'm glad I got it. Whenever you're done, just make sure to come back and check out the rest to see if you felt the same way. With that out of the way, let me tell you the tale of my 7th run. I was running with the Trident and was enjoying the reach and the ability to throw it. I felt that range was king in a game where getting hit once had a huge implication, and unlike the bow, it was much faster to work with. There I am, making my way through Elysium, and I reached the boss. These two punk-ass bitches tried jumping me once again, but this time, I'm the one that comes out on top. This is mainly because I had received 2 broken-ass boons beforehand. Athena's Aid and Stubborn Roots. Now I felt like this combination was way OP, but the way I saw it, the game gave it to me, so I wasn't being cheap in any way. The developers intended this to occur. One could make me completely invulnerable, and the other allowed me to recover health indefinitely. In any case, I get to the next area and clear it all out. I am greatly amused that you don't actually have to fight such a good boy, and then I proceed to the next area. There I encounter Hades, and after more of that delicious dialogue, we begin to fight. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting a fight with him so early, but I assumed that perhaps I would get to see him a few times throughout the whole game. We scrap it out, and sure enough, my powers are just too much for him. Man, this combination is really something else. I wonder if the game is going to get much harder to make up for this. But then, he gets up, and then there is a second phase. Well, second phases for a boss is usually something that only occurs towards the end. Nah, there's no way this could be the end. So I continue, and sure enough, he is defeated, and it dawns on me that this is it. I go through the 5 stages of grief as I walk to the next scene. Maybe there's more. Maybe I will have to fight my way to Olympus. This can't really be it. And yet, there she is. There's my mother. The whole point of the game has been completed, and I am left in complete shock. Now granted, we all know that you just get sent back and you have to beat the game 9 more times to get the full ending. But I was mad. I felt cheated and robbed that I had beaten the game. I know there was more story to be had, but in terms of gameplay, I felt like I had seen it all. I had been challenged by it all. I turned off the game and went off upset. 3 hours later, I was curious to see if maybe things had changed in the run. I did enjoy the characters and dialogue, so it wouldn't be too much of a grind to try again. And so I did. And I enjoyed it. And beat it again. The run didn't dramatically change, nothing really felt different than before. I was enjoying the run though, so maybe trying another weapon would be just as fun. So I did, beat it, and watch more of the ending. This pretty much carried over to 22 runs of the game before I had beaten it enough times to see the ending. And honestly, while the ending pretty much worked and played out straight, I was again upset. I thought maybe, just maybe, the whole Olympus hype would pay off and there would be a crazy boss rush at the end where I would have to fight all the gods. But no, not even Hades fought me that last time. I was so confused. This isn't me bragging like, oh, I'm just some league gamer and have all the skills. I barely got through Rogue Legacy and I could not beat the last boss in Dead Cells before I lost interest. I was genuinely conflicted on how to feel. I felt that I had really enjoyed the game, but I had seen it peak way earlier than I ever expected, and the rest just felt more like a formality. The game just got easier and easier as it went on, I hated the mechanic of choosing how to make the run harder from a list of options, like now I'm the developer. From a game that felt very deliberate and cohesive, suddenly at the end, it just felt very cheap. Just a way to extend the game in the least interesting way. I would have much rather different areas, different mechanics, just more of the world in the same 4 places you go through. The fact that I kept playing was more of a testament to the wonderful supporting features such as the voice work and world building than the actual gameplay. You quickly understand what works, what is good, how to play, and then it's just pretty straightforward. For all my criticisms, I honestly can't call the game bad either. I'm in this purgatory state where I enjoy the fleeting moments I had with it at the start, but my strongest memory of it are that of disappointment. I can deal with disappointment and wanting more than if the game was just a complete waste of my time. In the end, I had fun, and isn't that the whole point?
If it's not fun, why bother?
I give this game a river of sticks out of 10.